for bringing this information to me, and I've been experimenting with it a little bit. So the thing that we have to do, I have to show you, I have to start up a completely new franchise. So we're going to go ahead, use the real life roster, and we're going to use I don't know what team, just any team really that has players to re-sign. I don't know who has players specifically to re-sign. Let's go ahead and use a team like the Packers, I guess. I'm going to go ahead and go in the settings real quick just so it doesn't bother me about tutorial pop-ups, and I'm going to turn those off just so that it saves us a little bit of time. But in order to get this to work, we have to do something very specific. Now, what you guys are going to see is that we're going to have specific players up to re-sign in whatever year. It doesn't matter who is up for re-signing and who is not, because you can get your players on cheap contracts for any of your players in any different scenario. Now, I'm going to do this and show you guys various different players that are off contracts and whatnot, players that are on contracts, and hopefully we can get it to be recreated the proper way. Now, I need to go to salaries, that way I can show you guys what exactly I'm doing, and you guys can recreate this yourselves. I want to cut a guy like Kenny Clark that does have a couple years left on his deal. He's a 90 overall, and we're going to be able to get him for a super cheap amount. Now, I'm going to go ahead and release him. I'm not going to incur a huge penalty. I want to try and have cap room in order to actually be able to make this work. And then I want to sign a player that doesn't have a long-term contract, a player that we're going to have to re-sign this season. And Blake Martinez would be a good example. Maybe even Bulaga. Let's do it with a couple of them. So let's get rid of Blake Martinez, and then let's get rid of Bulaga. And that's going to give us a couple options to kind of experiment with and show you guys what exactly you have to do. Now, this is what you have to do. The tip is, if you sign a player out of free agency in this specific year, whenever you hit the re-sign phase after the Super Bowl, you'll be able to re-sign them for any amount of money you want for any length of their deal. So, I just cut those players specifically because I can show you guys now what exactly I have to do in order to make this work. So I'm going to bring back Kenny Clark now, sign him back to the active roster, and you'll sign him to a one-year deal. Same thing with Bulaga, and then I'm going to want to go ahead and do Martinez as well. And I can even, maybe even bring in some of these free agents. I could bring in Austin Seferian-Jenkins and show you guys that it works the same way with even players that you didn't cut from your own team. Okay, that's 4 guys. Now let's go ahead and, I guess I'm going to have to cut one player because I want to maintain that ability to show you all 4 of those players that I just did. So we'll go ahead and cut just a random safety, and then we're going to sim to that phase that I told you guys about at the end of the season. Now, this is vitally important. This isn't going to work with anybody that hasn't been signed that season. You have to have picked them up during this season in order for this to work. I don't know if it works if you pick them up in off-season. I've only tested so far if you pick them up this season, preseason, regular season, whatever it may be. You have to have signed them from free agency for this to work. So let's go ahead and advance all the way to off-season, and then it'll take us to the contract negotiation screen. I should be able to replicate it for you guys and show you that we can sign those players for whatever amount of money that you want. So normally speaking, as I showed you guys in my previous videos, you would have to sign them to whatever basically amount of money that they expect to be paid. And that's the way they've worked the contract negotiation system in the game this year. However, there is a glitch, and I have recreated it myself, so hopefully it works here when we do it, where you can re-sign them for whatever amount of money. So let's go ahead in and look at Kenny Clark, for example. So Kenny Clark, he wants 3 years, $42 million. But that's not what we're going to give him. We're going to give him 7 years, $1 million per year, and you can even do it down all the way to like 550,000. I'm just gonna go 950K, whatever, way less than what he's actually asking for. And if we go ahead and make that offer, it's gonna say that's exactly the offer that I was hoping to get. Next season will be great. Now, if you were to do that with a player and give him less money than what he actually wants, you know, another player that we didn't pick up this season, they're not going to give you the same response. Thanks for the offer, but I'm not interested in signing. However, we can go back to Brian Bulaga. We can do the same thing. We can go 7 years. We can go ahead and give him, you know, whatever the lowest amount of money is. I don't really need to play with it that much, and he's going to accept the contract. That's a good offer. Same thing with Safarian Jenkins. I'm just showing you guys that I can replicate this all the way throughout and give them significantly less money than what they're asking for because of this glitch. So that is what it is, guys. That's all it is. If you release a player and sign them, or sign a free agent during the season, they are available to be signed for whatever amount of money you choose to sign them for whenever you hit the off season. Now, this is a big glitch. This is not something that I recommend any of you do because it is cheating the game. It's a kind of a cheap thing to do if you're trying to play realistic. Don't even try to get away with this in a league online because you'll be kicked from those leagues immediately. And we'll be able to see, you know, what contracts you sign players to, and it's obviously a big issue. But as you can see, I was able to re-sign all of these guys for super low amounts of money compared to what they're actually asking for. I was able to get a 90 overall for $1 million per year, which is a huge issue, and obviously a problem with the game. But it's a glitch, and I figured I had to inform you guys on it. We can go and look at the salary cap now and show you guys that, yeah, these guys are actually on there for super cheap contracts. So you'll see Kenny Clark on there for a couple million per year. We'll go down to Bulaga, wherever he was, and he's on here for only a couple $1 million per year. Significantly less money than they're actually worth or actually asking for. So if you guys are doing your solo franchises or whatever, and you're looking for a way to game the cap system and game the salary cap, go ahead and cut your players that don't give you a huge cap hit, and then re-sign them through free agency, and you'll be able to bring them back on a super cheap deal the following off season. So hopefully this guys gave you some valuable information. Like I said, be aware of this if you're league owners, because people might try and do this. And shout out to the guy that I said earlier in the video that did bring this tip to me. It is very interesting that this is like the one glitch this year in Madden that you can do to try and game the contract system. I'm glad somebody brought this to my attention, because I wouldn't have been on the lookout for it prior to somebody telling me this. But hopefully this helps you guys out in some way. If it did, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for more tips and tricks videos, more Madden content, more whatever content, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you guys have a great night.